Okay, so pros of virtual groups. Flexibility is number one. Number two is increased productivity. And then number three is collaboration. And then lastly, money saving. Flexibility. When COVID happened, a lot of schools and businesses started doing things online. Meetings through Zoom started happening, and it made it easier for people to plan a time to call. People became more flexible because they were not going out like they were before COVID happened, especially for for people who had medical conditions and could not travel or go anywhere. It made it so much easier for them to just Zoom call or Google Meet or do whatever kind of meetings online. Then increased productivity. A study found that 77% of those who work remotely at least um yeah, uh productivity remotely has increased more recently than productivity in person. Um COVID forced people to move remotely and more people are um getting their jobs done because they've all been put remotely. Next, collaboration. Um, team uh, collaboration, done right, is a powerful force to align a group of individuals to accomplish a common goal in the most effective way possible. Working with others to get projects done remotely is hard, but once people get used to it, it becomes easier as they move forward. Um, Group projects for school or for a job show up a lot, especially on like online schools. Working with people you do not know, and being able to work with them is a skill that everyone should know. When it comes to group work, everyone needs to work together to get everything done. That way it can all get done in time. And then finally, money saving. Going virtual helps cut travel costs and it helps save money for more important things. Um, Saving money for companies can help them grow more and be able to pay their employees a little bit more. Um, Virtual groups spend less money than traditional groups because traditional groups they are in person and there's a lot of things that go into meeting in person and everything. Whereas virtual groups, you can just stay home and have a meeting. Companies can save money for something that is beneficial for them virtually rather than having to spend money on rent or conference rooms.
Okay, cons of virtual groups. First is poor communication. Second is building trust. Third is productivity. And fourth is legal and technical complications. Uh, Julie Wilson says it best, and she says, managing a virtual team can be challenging, but addressing those challenges head on is worth the effort. So basically, when we are managing a virtual team and working on that together, and everyone has a good amount of effort, then it is likely to go better. So the first con to virtual groups is poor communication. Communication, both verbal and nonverbal, requires tone of voice and body language. When communicating online through text or emails, people lack both, and so that leads to poor communication. It's often people will use emojis to help out with that lack of communication, but even emojis don't help out a ton. During virtual meetings, people will often get close to the camera or there's background noise distracts those members. And these elements actually start altering the brain chemistry and it inhibits a sense of fight or flight that leaves people very stressed after a phone call. Oftentimes, that will literally just like change their chemistry so that they can think a different way, and that's really not good. Communication is often poor when someone is stressed, and after that, it can lead them to do their worst during a virtual call, which is not good. Often people will get like very nervous before those kind of events because they're scared that they're going to mess up and slip up on a word, and it's usually because of the virtual meeting. Virtual groups lack shared experiences that flourish groups. This makes communication lackluster unless all members are fully engaged. Going back to that same quote, if people aren't fully giving in their effort and fully engaged in the conversation, then it just won't go as well. Next, building trust. Virtual groups often lack an important aspect of trust, and regularly meeting online removes that sense of camaraderie that you have when you work in person and are able to meet together. So when you meet virtually and you don't meet in person at all, you miss that good morning that you have on your way into work, and you miss those conversations at lunch, and you don't really know much about the people that you're hanging out with. Like, you don't really know your coworkers well. You don't know how many kids they have. You don't know what they're doing and what's up with their life because you're not able to actually have that. And so this makes navigating relationships with your coworkers and trusting them with important tasks really hard. One of the fundamental challenges of leading virtual groups is fostering team unity when employees work apart. So basically, your team might be really united when you're together, but if you fall apart and everyone separates and no one is working together, then that's obviously you haven't fostered that good team unity that you thought you did. Next is productivity. All people have different work ethics, and some are better suited for virtual communications than others. Some are more extroverted, and that makes it really easy for them to navigate virtual conversation because they're able to just work with people really well. And some are introverts, and it's just really hard for them to navigate that when you have a group project and they have to voice their opinion in a way that they don't usually voice it. And so that can be really difficult. One of the most common struggles among virtual groups is actually delegating a leader and defining how much power they have, because often during virtual groups, the extroverts really have the floor and they're able to explain and say stuff. But if you give them too much power, then you're not able to actually have that balance, because the people that are introverted also have good points as well. And you have to have that balance, which is really hard to find in a virtual group when you can't actually get to know people very well. Next is legal and technical complications. Obviously, there are differences in locations, local labor laws and taxes and all these things. If you have 10 different employees and 7 of them are from completely different countries, then it's going to be really hard to make sure that you pay them all the same and make sure that they all get what they want out of their work. Time zone differences, technological difficulties, and busy schedules. Obviously, these are all things that are going to have an impact when you're trying to work with your group together. Technological costs, paying for computers. Many people, many technical and traditional jobs have an IT department that you can go in and you can say, my computer's messed up and I need it fixed. But if you're working virtually at home, then you have to go into Verizon or you have to go into AT&T and have them solve it. And that's a technical error that virtual communications and virtual groups have. And so, yeah, that's it. That's the cons of virtual groups.
All right, traditional groups. Traditional groups consist of individuals working in physical proximity, united by a common goal. Some of the pros of traditional groups include trust. In-person interactions help to build relationships and trust. Efficiency is another important aspect of traditional groups. Group members are selected based on skills, and productivity is assessed daily. Furthermore, clarity is an important aspect of traditional groups. In-person interactions clarify information sharing and employee roles. Um, trust. Trust determines the success of any group. Trust develops in social environments and traditional groups as members support, promote, and encourage personal and group excellence. Traditional group members develop relationships and report when they interact face to face, which leads to less conflict and higher productivity. Efficiency. In traditional groups, individual roles are efficiently assigned based on each member's skill, where group members can monitor each other's activities. In traditional groups, meetings can be called at any time when all members are available, resulting in efficient decision-making and problem-solving. Lastly, we have clarity. In traditional groups, information is exchanged during formal and informal discussions, further clarifying each member's role. In-person reminders about each group member's responsibility and role allows the team to perform efficiently, product, uh, productively, and in a timely manner. Lastly, Phil Jackson, a former basketball player and coach, once said, "The strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team."
Alrighty, so I'm going to talk to you about the cons of traditional groups, which include challenges and limitations of in-person collaboration. I think I went a little too far. 1 second. Alrighty, so first up is scheduling conflicts. So here are some of the challenges of I kind of split it up into groups. So the challenges of coordinating meetings. So traditional groups require all members to meet at the same time at a set time and place, which can be difficult due to differing schedules. So everyone has different lives, right? Everyone has their separate personal lives, and that can be really tricky to try to meet at, especially like the same, or I should say different set times that differ from week to week, or anything like that. And finding a common meeting time often leads to delays in decision making and project progress. So it will just delay things even further. Next is impact of travel and location constraints. So members may have to travel long distances, which adds to fatigue and reduces availability. Traffic congestion, bad weather, and transportation issues can cause delays and affect punctuality, along with anything else that occurs just in our daily lives. Next is time zone differences in global organizations. So for groups with international or out-of-state members, even in-state members, time zone conflicts can make it harder to coordinate real-time meetings. So unlike virtual groups where asynchronous communication is an option, traditional groups often rely on in-person discussions, which again can be hard with people's schedules. Lower participation rates due to inflexibility. So rigid schedules may prevent some members from attending regularly, leading to a loss of valuable input. And parents, working students, and professionals with demanding jobs may struggle to balance group commitments. Okay, next is groupthink and social pressure. So groupthink occurs when group members prioritize harmony and conformity over critical thinking. So unique or dissenting opinions may be dismissed to maintain group unity, leading to poor decision making. Everybody has different perspectives and a different say in things, and so certain people can definitely be put down easier in those situations. So how social pressure limits innovation. So some members may feel intimidated by stronger personalities and avoid voicing their ideas. So same thing, introvert versus an extrovert. That also comes with a fear of rejection or criticism that may prevent individuals from expressing unconventional but potentially words valuable viewpoints. Next is the dominance of certain members. So more outspoken or authoritative members may control discussions, leaving quieter individuals unheard, which also includes bias towards senior or other experienced members. Can lead to a lack of fresh perspectives, which can also include maybe one person thinks that another person is better just overall and can do the whole job better, but everyone, like I said, does have different perspectives that they can add to the group. And lastly, for here is the lack of diverse perspectives. So traditional groups often consist of people from similar backgrounds, just because it's usually people who are in close proximity, or you're in a similar group anyway. So which can limit diverse viewpoints. And virtual groups, in contrast, allow members from different locations and cultures to collaborate from basically anywhere. Next is inefficiency and time-consuming meetings. So distractions and off-topic discussions. So in-person meetings can become social events rather than productive work sessions. So I'm definitely guilty of when I'm meeting up with people, or even like my Bible study where we are there to talk about the Lord, but super quickly we can get super off topic and we can spend an hour just catching up. So small talk, personal interactions, and unrelated conversations take up valuable meeting time. You're meeting for a reason. So it is best to stick to the topic. Next is slow decision-making processes. So traditional groups often require consensus, which means lengthy discussions before any action is taken. And if there are conflicting opinions, discussions can drag on for hours without reaching a resolution. And sometimes that can definitely be resolved quicker in a virtual group setting. Next is time lost in commuting and setup. So members need to travel to a physical meeting location, which is definitely time consuming, rather than you're already home and you just pop on a computer. Setting up the meeting place, arranging materials, and waiting for latecomers further waste time. And lastly, for here is rigid meeting structures. So unlike virtual meetings, which allow for quick updates via emails or video calls or texts, you name it, traditional groups follow formal meeting structures. And agendas must be prepared, roles assigned, and minutes recorded, increasing bureaucratic inefficiencies. And lastly, geographical and accessibility limitations. So this includes physical location constraints. So members must be in close proximity to participate, limiting the pool of potential contributors. Unlike virtual groups, which allow for global collaboration, traditional groups are often restricted to local members, because obviously we can't drive or fly everywhere every day to get to people. Next is barriers for individuals with disabilities, so people with mobility impairments or chronic illnesses, or you name it, that enables them to leave the house. May struggle to attend in-person meetings. So virtual groups provide better accommodations such as captions, screen readers, and flexible participation in basically any way, shape, or form for different people who need those accommodations. Next is financial burdens and resource limitations. So traditional meetings require physical venues, travel costs, printed materials, and sometimes food, increasing expenses, while virtual groups reduce costs by eliminating the need for transportation and printed resources, because again, you're at home. And lastly, limited opportunities for remote workers. So employees who work from home or live in different regions are often excluded from traditional groups. And hybrid work models show that remote participation can be just as effective, if not more, than in-person collaboration.